fortifying the North with major projects and major money for the military. This is Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow.
Going beyond the headlines.
Now You Know with Rob Snow on News Radio.
The Prime Minister is in Norway. His plane landed there a few hours ago, and in a few hours from now, Mark Carney will be in a place called Bardufoss to observe a military demonstration as part of NATO's exercise called Cold Response. Before leaving for Oslo, the Prime Minister traveled north to Yellowknife, where he announced his government plans to spend $35 billion to fortify the North. And in announcing so, he hearkened back to the 1950s and the words of a former conservative prime minister.
1958. Prime Minister John Diefenbaker asked Canadians to consider, and I quote, a new imagination for the Arctic. He portrayed the North as Canada's last great frontier, part of our national consciousness. Well, certainly an area that contains 40% of Canada's landmass and over 70% of our coastline is at the very heart of our nation. But you have been patient because, well, it's at the heart physically of our nation. It hasn't always been treated as such.
Prime Minister Carney announced that $32 billion will be used to upgrade forward operating bases in Yellowknife, Inuvik, Iqaluit, and in Goose Bay, Labrador. They will get upgraded airfields, new and repurposed hangars, and new storage for ammunition and fuel. And Mr. Carney said there will be upgrades to housing, warehouses, and investments in IT.
Investments to defend our sovereignty and to deter new threats. Investments to connect, build, and transform northern and Arctic communities. With this plan, we are taking control of our future. We will no longer rely on others to defend our Arctic security or to fuel our economy. We're taking full responsibility for defending our sovereignty, and we are unleashing a range of new economic opportunities for the over 140,000 Northerners who will benefit from stronger, more connected communities, more opportunities, and a higher standard of living.
The major investments in military infrastructure were just one part of this announcement. The second part includes projects that will be referred to the government's new major projects office in Calgary. They include an Arctic Economic and Security Corridor, the expansion of a hydroelectric project in the Northwest Territories, an all-weather road and deepwater port in Nunavut, and an 800-kilometer Mackenzie Valley Highway project. Mr. Carney touted the significance of these announcements with another nod to Deef the Chief.
When John Diefenbaker, all those years ago, set out to reimagine the North, he rightly envisioned that it required more than a stronger economy. It required a more secure border. But ultimately, it required a future where Canadians have, and I quote, control of their own destiny. Là où nous sommes maîtres chez nous. And today, we are taking major steps to realize that vision, to take control and to build the true North strong and free together.
While the Prime Minister was in Yellowknife, an issue about the Canadian military was circulating back in Ottawa after the Quebec-based news outlet La Presse reported that a Canadian Armed Forces base in Kuwait was hit by an Iranian missile, with a fortified shelter sustaining heavy damage. It happened more than 10 days ago, but MPs only found out about it because of that news report. Manitoba Conservative MP James Bazan is the defense critic for the Conservative Party. He demanded to know why MPs were kept in the dark.
Prime Minister Carney has had multiple occasions and press availability to disclose this fact, that Canadian Armed Forces bases in Kuwait were attacked on March the 1st. We also are very concerned that this has been an ongoing lack of transparency, and it's part of the ongoing flip-flops of Mark Carney and the Liberals on their position on the war in Iran. As Conservatives, we are very supportive of the removal of the terrorist regime in Iran and for freedom and democracy to prevail throughout the country. However, I have to remind everyone that when we were government during the Harper era, Conservatives held ongoing press availability and technical briefings on our Canadian Armed Forces and Operation Impact in Iraq and Syria. This is a failure of the government of not wanting to communicate, not being transparent, and not sharing with Canadians exactly how Canada is impacted by this war and how the Canadian Armed Forces are continuing to be in the region, not involved in this operation, but continuing on in their responsibilities tied to other operations in Canadian interest.
This base in Kuwait is nicknamed The Rock. It's home to a large American contingent, but also houses what's been dubbed Camp Canada. La Presse reported this week the missile strike damaged one of the bunkers that is located just a stone's throw from where the Canadians are housed. When asked about it, the Prime Minister didn't have much to say and seemed to defer to others.
Well, I'm not the only spokesperson for the government, but I'll just confirm that Canadian Forces are, the members of the Canadian Forces are all safe and sound. I reinforce, as I said in French, what you know, which is that we are not engaged in these actions of the U.S. and Israel. We're not engaged in offensive actions, and we will not be engaged in those actions.
Following the Prime Minister's trip to Norway, he will spend some time in the UK, where he will have a meeting with the King and the UK Prime Minister, Keir Starmer. And he is going to have some downtime. He'll make a brief stop in Italy as well next week. No House business March break for MPs. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is News Radio.
Now You Know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
He's our expert in communications, crisis communications, political communications, branding, and leadership, which we'll focus on today. Barry McLoughlin is the president of TLC, Transformational Leadership Consultants, offices in Ottawa and Washington. Barry teaches at the University of Ottawa's Professional Development Institute and at Cape Breton University's Shannon School of Business. You can read his Substack. You can listen to his podcast, and he joins us every Friday. He survived the freezing rain. Welcome back.
Great to be back with you, Rob.
Yeah. 1 year, Barry, of Prime Minister Mark Carney. Tomorrow, March 14th, marks the first anniversary of Mark Carney being sworn in as Canada's 24th Prime Minister. If you go back in time, you will remember it came shortly after he won the Liberal Party leadership. And so it was before he won the election. That was about 6 weeks later. You're an expert in leadership. You teach it, you study it, you advise on it. So after 1 year of watching Mark Carney, how would you describe his leadership style?
Well, he certainly exceeded expectations. I would say that he is bolder and more visionary than anybody had thought. They thought he was this, banker and button-down banker, which was his background behind the scenes more often. And here we have a guy, the timing hit perfectly for him. He came in at the peak at that time anyway of the Trump, follies with regard to Canada. And he really positioned himself very naturally as a steady, hand on the tiller in stormy seas. And he definitely has accomplished that to the point where, people are probably forgiving him of a number of things because they do see him as a strong and reliable leader that has a vision for Canada. There's really very little question about that. The question is it actually a vision that will, come true? That's going to be seen down the road, obviously.
One of the things I was wondering when he first started on this journey, and I recall you going to one of his events before he even declared that he would run for the Liberal leadership. I remember you went to that event in your neighborhood.
Yeah.
One of the things I was wondering is, okay, here's the guy, sparkling resume, career on Wall Street, career as the governor of the Bank of Canada, the Bank of England.
Mm-hmm.
Very comfortable with the global crowd. Very comfortable on a stage in Davos. But what kind of retail politician would he make? That's one of the things I was wondering. Okay, he's great in Davos, but how does he do, say, with the Tim Hortons crowd? How does he do in a Legion Hall or a community center? Does he like to shake hands and kiss babies? What's your sense of, say, the retail politician, Mark Carney?
Yeah, I was just talking about that at an event that he was at the other night, and people, I began the conversation, with my point that nobody thought of him as a retail politician. In fact, that was the big negative. Oh, he's going to be out there shaking hands at the mall. Give me a break. That's not going to be him. And boy, he quickly, clicked into that. He's got very good people skills. I've seen him up close just the other night. The way he interacts with people, he knows how to do it very quickly, gives full impact for a few seconds, moves on to the next. He likes shaking hands. He seems to like meeting people and saying hello to people he knows. So really he does have that touch that I did not think he had, except when I saw him at our local community center. Boy, he really is great on self-deprecatory humor, which every crowd loves. I've known him sort of off and on over 20 years. I didn't actually realize that aspect of him in public, but he was making fun of himself. He said, the other night he said, I was former governor of the Bank of England. He says, no point to that. I just wanted to mention it so you'd remember. Like, everybody laughed. He has a way to kind of poke fun at himself, which some of it could be advisors might say, oh, don't do that. But it works for him. And you got to be self-deprecatory. Otherwise, he can quickly become boastful, and then people hate that. So I think he's mastered the political arts, which is what you have to do.
Another question that I have for you is, if there was an election today, it's very clear the Liberals would win and win big. All the polls are suggesting that at 44 to 49%. It's a party that's been in power for more than 10 years. It's been 1 year of Mark Carney as prime minister. What is it that you think that Canadians like about Mark Carney?
Well, he actually was not a professional politician. They felt he had his own bona fides that he'd earned. He felt that Canadians love it when you're given a stamp of approval internationally. And, the fact that a Canadian became the governor of Bank of England was not a minor point. Everybody knows that. And so he in the UN and everything else, he is seen as a global player. From a small population country such as ours, that's a very, it's somewhat of an exceptional thing. So I think that people really do see in him the qualities that they haven't seen in many years. Every prime minister has his own. Stephen Harper had his own qualities. They were different from your average backslapping. I remember Harper saying he didn't want to be one of those backslapping politicians. Well, he wasn't. He doesn't kissing babies, but however, he learned how to play that role in his own style and his own way. And so Stephen Harper has learned that. There's no question that Mark Carney has learned that. And I think people just see him as solid and reliable.
Solid and reliable. Okay. When we come back, Nova Scotia politics. Just last week, you and I were talking about Premier Tim Houston in Nova Scotia trying to find a way out of his budget cut mess, and this week he made his move. Let's talk about that when we come back. This is News Radio.
There is no question Rob won't get answered.
Now You Know with Rob Snow continues
On News Radio.
Back with Barry McLoughlin, the president of TLC, Transformational Leadership Consultants. So 1 week ago, you were suggesting Nova Scotia Premier Tim Houston needed to find a way out of his budget cut mess. Big protests across Nova Scotia. Many news stories about people being impacted by budget cuts. And this week he tried. He faced the media, and let's listen to what he said.
Nova Scotians have spoken clearly. Many people told us that they were worried about certain parts of the budget. And I want to start by saying this. On some of the decisions, we got it wrong. And for that, I'm sorry. Because the legislature is still reviewing the budget, we have the opportunity to make adjustments now before it's finalized, and we're going to do just that. My job as Premier is to keep the province safe and to bring people together. I never want Nova Scotians to feel like their government is working against them. In preparing the budget, we focused heavily on the financial pressures facing our province, and we did not do enough ahead of time to explain to Nova Scotians the seriousness of the challenge. But in trying to respond to the financial challenges, we moved too quickly.
Okay, moved too quickly, got it wrong. Sorry. Rare to hear a politician apologize. What do you think about this, Barry?
Well, I'm so impressed by him. I mean, I was kind of choking up a bit there because you rarely hear a premier apologize straight out. And he did. And wow, it takes guts to do something like that. But people will trust you more in the future, that, you know, the fact that you're willing to say you made a mistake and to actually apologize for it. Wow. That was very meaningful. He did the right thing. I'm sure others beyond me advised him. And he maybe took the temperature himself and realized, you know, there's no win to this whatsoever. I really didn't listen to people. And the least I could have done was to give them a heads up and maybe find alternative, you know, ways of dealing with this before we just, you know, shut the whole thing down. So I really admired that. And I'm hoping that other premiers take note of that, because that's true leadership right there.
Oh, okay. Every year, let's wrap up on this. We have about a minute and a half here. Every year, there's a shindig on Parliament Hill to celebrate St. Patrick's Day. Barry McLoughlin, I know you've been to that event from time to time. Were you there this year?
Well,
is that what you were talking about, where the Prime Minister was? Or?
No, that was actually at the Irish Ambassador's residence. You know, that's the St. Patrick's Day celebration there. It's always within the week of St. Patrick's. The one you're referring to is Ireland's Day on the Hill, where, you know, it's usually done on Wellington's at the Sir John A. building. So that's a different event in the fall. So this is the St. Patrick's, you know, it's now turned into Irish month, you know, and
okay.
He and the Prime Minister came, and of course, you know, 4 of his grandfathers come from Mayo. I mean, it's unbelievable, County Mayo. And his grandfather came over. But he told, it's just a quick moment that you see it in, I've never seen Mark Carney like this. He tells a story of going back to Ireland to get the birth certificate of his grandfather, okay, a number of decades ago. He gets this faded piece of paper, and where his grandfather's father would normally have signed the certificate, there was an X. And he just stopped and choked up for 45 seconds. He couldn't say a word because of the emotion of that. It meant that he had died, that he hadn't been there to see his grandson. You know, his son, let alone his grandson, who became Prime Minister of Canada. He couldn't speak for about 45 seconds. It was a beautiful moment.
Wow. Okay. Thanks for that insider account. And happy St. Patrick's Day to you next week, Barry, as you celebrate. Yeah. Bye-bye. Barry McLoughlin from TLC, Transformational Leadership Consultants. Tom Korski from Blacklock. Lots to cover with him this week. That's coming up next on News Radio.
You have questions.
Now you know with Rob Snow has the answers.
On News Radio.
Well, he's been minding Ottawa's business for us. Tom Korski's back. He's the managing editor at Blacklock's Reporter. Welcome back. Great to hear from you,
Thank
Tom.
You, Rob. My pleasure.
Well, it seems inevitable now. Most believe that the Liberals are soon to have a majority government. What would that mean for parliamentary committees where the real work happens, and why does that matter?
Technically, the House of Commons can go into session and vote to modify the makeup of committees, in other words, to give the Liberals a majority on all committees. Why is that a problem if you are not a Liberal? Because it means that the minority opposition, Conservative and Bloc members on committees, who currently control all committees, will not be able to initiate any investigations, subpoenas, reviews, cross-examination of witnesses. They cannot have the votes to initiate, they can still filibuster and block, but it is a significant loss because we see all the time Conservative and Bloc members commissioning investigations, calling witnesses, and some of it is very damning.
Now, I was reading a commentary this week from Tom Mulcair, the former leader of the NDP, and he suggested that in order for this to happen, assuming that there will be a majority government, in order for this to happen, Parliament would have to be prorogued and then the committees would be reassembled. Is that your understanding of how it would work?
It doesn't have to be prorogation. We checked with the Speaker's office. It is simply a vote of the House of Commons. And, of course, if they have the votes in the House, they have the votes in committees.
I see. All right. Let's move on to something else then. Changes are coming to freedom of information. Freedom of information. Now, this is your bread and butter at Blacklock's Reporter. Freedom of information and getting your hands on government documents. The government is also going to cut jobs in the department that handles freedom of information requests. So what would that mean for a news outlet like Blacklock's Reporter?
Well, it's already an adversarial and, frankly, irritating process and has been for many years. It's really a misnomer. It's not access to information. They will go to the gates of hell to conceal records and do constantly. There are very common for requesters, and this is including members of the general public. It's not just reporters or contractors. Can wait 6-10 years. There are 10-year waits for records. What is happening, though, is it's going to be interesting to see if, for instance, the Cabinet has the votes to tighten down access to information even more. I mentioned the business about filibustering. This is exactly the sort of thing. The opposition would just filibuster morning, noon, and night to prevent a vote. Rob, I have to say, access to information is so bad. Occasionally we're asked to speak at some seminars or workshops on reforming access to information. They stopped asking me because my recommendation was just shut it down and let us sue for records. You literally can't sue for records. You are forced into this game to drive mice crazy. And no wonder when you see some of the material that they're trying to hide.
They're expanding, as I understand it, the sort of material that would be exempt or prohibited, I suppose would be a better way to put it. The government would be prohibited from releasing it under access to information. So it's about to get much more difficult by the sounds of things, Tom.
Absolutely. And even the last cabinet, Trudeau, the only private bill he ever introduced as a member, a backbencher, a Liberal member of Parliament, was freedom by default, access by default bill. It didn't go anywhere. Someone else must have written the bill for him because he never expressed any more interest in the subject. Even he granted an exemption. This was on the level if replying to a request was too onerous, if it was too much work. Departments could say no if they really didn't feel like it because, I want to leave at 4:30. So it's already I tell people all the time, we're asked, we don't charge, we're asked for advice all the time for people seeking records. And I always tell them, they're not your friends. Don't let them smooth talk you. Those access officers will go to the wall to hide a record, and they'll lie if they have to. It's pretty rough.
Okay. I want to call our listeners' attention to this announcement that was made a few weeks ago now in Nova Scotia. It's called the Mercy River Wind Farm. It's 33 wind turbines, a renewable infrastructure project. When the announcement was a big announcement, the premier was there from Nova Scotia, the federal industry minister was there, the energy minister, and bigwigs from the Canada Infrastructure Bank. Now, one of the companies behind this project is called Roswall Developments, and it has an offshoot called Renewal Energy. It's interesting because, according to reporting in the Halifax Chronicle Herald, it's kind of a who's who of Nova Scotia Liberals. Chair Michael Sampson, Cape Breton, Richmond Liberal MLA, former interim leader of the Nova Scotia Liberal Party. Edgar Sampson, brother of Daryl Sampson, Liberal MP, Sackville Preston until 2025. Mitchell Bryson Developments, brother of Scott Bryson, former president of the Treasury Board, Liberal MP. Dan Roscoe, son-in-law of David Dingwall, former, of course, Liberal MP and big-time heavy hitter in cabinet. So this company's getting a loan from the Canada Infrastructure Bank worth $206 million, $25 million from Natural Resources Canada, and a tax credit worth up to $122 million. That is $353 million in federal aid for a project that will, at its peak, create 200 temporary construction jobs in Nova Scotia. It's a subsidy of $1.7 million a job. I outlined the connections here. What do Conservatives want to know?
They want the records. We know, for instance, the giveaway is really the air quotes, the loans. I mean, you say, well, if you want a loan, why don't you just go to the bank or credit union like everyone else? Oh, no, my friend. These are loans from the Infrastructure Bank and Department of Natural Resources where you don't pay until or if you make money. Well, that's not a loan. Like, that's a sweetheart giveaway and a charge to the taxpayer that, as if by miracle, benefits friends of the Liberal Party. This is the sort of thing that the Conservatives, I can almost guarantee you, will get in through committee order before the by-elections in April that will give the Liberals the majority. Get those records. Rob, this has just got a scummy feel to it.
Well, it's just the fact that you have names like Bryson and Dingwall, and I'm not suggesting anything untoward happened here.
Of course not.
But they hired a lobbying firm, well-known lobbying firm in Ottawa, to knock on doors. One of the places they knocked on was ACOA, the Atlantic Canada Opportunities Agency. Who used to be the head of the Atlantic Canada Opportunities Agency? Well, Scott Bryson was at one point. Right? And so was David Dingwall. Do you think that helps, Tom? You think that helps?
Helping people.
Come on. All right, we'll be right back with Tom Korski from Blacklock's Reporter, coming up on News Radio.
No question goes unasked or unanswered.
Now You Know with Rob Snow returns on News Radio.
Here with Tom Korski, the managing editor of Blacklock's Reporter. There were questions during the daily question period yesterday about the housing affordability crisis. The Minister of Housing is the former Mayor of Vancouver, Gregor Robertson, who had an interesting answer to explain slower than expected housing starts. Let's listen to a little bit of this together, Tom.
See, spring housing report is out, Mr. Speaker, and the headlines are concerning. Here it is. Condo sales have collapsed, inventory of all types of housing has surged, and financial conditions have worsened for homebuyers. But here's the most concerning thing about that report. It says that Canadians are delaying starting families because of housing unaffordability, delaying marriage, delaying children, the very foundations of our society because they can't afford a home. We've offered one positive solution: remove the GST on new homes for all Canadians. Will the Minister commit to doing that today?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, it's no surprise that Canadians are challenged with buying homes right now when there's a war in the Middle East. There's no surprise, Mr. Speaker.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I think that's good, Curtis. Thank you. Well, it's no surprise, Tom, that people are delaying their home purchases. There's a war in the Middle East. Yeah, okay, yeah, it started 2 weeks ago. Come on.
That's true. Yeah, it's sad and funny and infuriating all at the same time. Minister Robertson has identified a housing crisis long before bombs dropped on Iraq. And the CMHC, the federal insurer, does point out, and has in 3 successive reports pointed out, that housing starts, which are nowhere near half the minimum required as identified by Cabinet to restore affordability, and are now dropping. I don't want to use expletives, Rob. If you accept that home ownership is the wealth of the land, it is the only way a working person in our country can build up any equity so their children can go to better schools, so you won't die in the street when you're too old and sick to work, and they have taken that away from a generation. And for that horse's ass to stand in the House of Commons and blame Mideast geopolitics for their failures, wow, that's something.
Yeah, it sure is. Okay, moving right along. Calm down, Tom. Now, I don't know if this is going to calm you down, though. I noticed if you drive by the Pearson building in Ottawa these days, they're doing renovations. It's all clad in scaffolding and everything else, as are a lot of the buildings in the parliamentary precinct these days. But that's the home of the Department of Foreign Affairs. That department has how many offices employing how many people in the United States?
In the United States, they spent $132 million last year. They have almost 500 employees working in, it is at 15 consulates and trade offices, plus the big embassy in Washington that has 324 staff. Tom Clark's consulate in New York has 111. They're pretty full-staffed.
Right. They run 68 social media accounts across Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and yet, why are they hiring so many consultants, and what are they trying to figure out?
Yeah, this is gold. Their latest contract is with a consultant in Washington who, by the way, does not have 16 offices and $132 million budget and 500 employees, to figure out how Americans, air quotes, consume information online. Because it's not like you just can't ask the people in the parking lot at Red Lobster. You have to hire a consultant. They have hired more than one ever since the trade troubles started. Why the department does not see this as an admission of spectacular failure is not obvious, Rob.
Yeah. Embassy in Washington has 324 staff, 111 in the New York consulate, and we still can't figure out how to talk to Americans. All right. One more. We're going to follow up on this later today and then again next week. I am partial to the common loon. I like the haunting call of the common loon. How close is Canada to having, though, an official bird, and what bird will it be?
It's very Canadian. Correct. We don't have a national bird. There's a bill in the Senate. It passed second reading without a single dissenting vote. That almost never happens. It's going to sail through committee, but with endorsements from BC to Newfoundland and Labrador. Birders, ornithologists. Anne Murray, Grammy Award winner, likes this bill. She sent in an email to the committee for the whiskey jack, as we used to call it when we were kids in the bush, or the Canada jay to be our national bird.
And what did they like about the Canada jay? What is Canadian about the Canada jay?
This is gold. And I knew this, even though I'm not an ornithologist, but from where we were growing up when we were kids. It's in every province and territory. How great is that? It doesn't migrate. It stays in the woods right through the coldest days of winter. If it's minus 30, you will still see a whiskey jack in the bush.
Isn't that something? All right. The whiskey jack, the Canada jay, has a lot of names depending on where you are in the country, could soon be Canada's national bird. Well, thank you, Tom Korski. You're our national treasure. Thank you. We'll speak to you next week.
Thank you, Rob.
Around here you are anyway. Thank you. Yeah. Minding Ottawa's business from Blacklock's reporter, Tom Korski. This is News Radio.
Critical thinking is not dead.
Now you know with Rob Snow.
Returns on News Radio.
Gas prices, one of the big stories of the week, as our expert, Dan McTeague, predicted earlier this week. They took a jump again overnight in many parts of the country. Nova Scotia was one of the few exceptions. Gas prices, though, rose significantly there midweek. So they're standing pat now at about $1.62 a liter, which is really on the high side nationally. But every other place that I watch, gas went up overnight. In Ottawa, close to my place, gas was up 6 cents a liter overnight, back above $1.60 now, $1.61. They rose a nickel in the Kitchener-Waterloo area, standing just shy at $1.57, a jump of 6 cents a liter in Calgary, getting up there, $1.53 a liter. The average price in Calgary and in Vancouver, gosh almighty, bottom barrel gas price about $1.90 a liter. It has been another volatile day in the commodities market, in the oil market. The futures for West Texas Intermediate have traded as high today as $97.70 US a barrel, and as low as $92.30 And right now, the oil price is settled at 96.77 cents US. So pretty much near the highs of the trading session today, up about 1% today, and right about where it started out on Monday when it took a big jump on Monday. The largest oil company in the world is Saudi Aramco. And this week, the CEO of that company, Amin Nasser, said that the ongoing blockage of the Strait of Hormuz could have, quote, catastrophic consequences for global oil markets. And earlier in the week, we heard from a senior Iranian leader saying the regime was willing to have oil prices climb to $200 a barrel. So imagine oil prices doubling from here. Let's hope not. AAA, the auto club in the United States, says today the average gas price across the United States is $3.60 a gallon US. So when you take in the exchange rate, it's $1.29 a liter in Canadian dollars. So Americans are paying about $1.29 a liter in many places. It's March 13th, and I was looking at some of the events on this day in Canadian history. 1898, territory was formally separated from the Northwest Territories and created into a distinct entity under the name Yukon Territory, done in response to the administrative needs brought on by the Klondike Gold Rush. 1964, Canadian troops were deployed to Cyprus. Part of a UN mission, became one of Canada's longest-running overseas military commitments. It lasted decades, involved tens of thousands of Canadian Forces personnel keeping the peace between Greek Cypriots and Turkish Cypriots, eventually became known as Operation Snow Goose. And in 1989, Deb Gray became the first ever elected Reform Member of Parliament, winning a by-election in Beaver River, Alberta. Won 4 elections, served as an MP for 15 years, and was Canada's first female leader of the official opposition. All on this day in history. Talkback Friday free-for-all up next.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now.
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to Talkback. It's 2 hours of debate and discussion on the big issues of the day. Today is the Friday free-for-all, so we don't like to come up with topics on Fridays. We always have a few ready to go, but we prefer to know what's on your mind. So what's on your mind? What do you want to talk about? If you want to talk about something that's been in the news, no shortage of that. Lots of news this week. If you want to talk about something you think should be in the news, hey, this should be in the news, Rob. Let's talk about it. Feel free to raise that here. Whatever it happens to be. It could be serious, not so serious. We have a phone line for you, and they're all open right now. 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. If you've never called before, just mention that, and we will make your call a priority. Again, 1-833-668-2577. Consider these just some conversation starters. Okay, let me ask you this. Do you have carny mania? Carny mania. Carny mania. Do you have carny mania? Apparently the country is in the throes of something called carny mania. As I mentioned with my good friend Barry McLoughlin, tomorrow is a significant anniversary in our politics. Tomorrow marks 1 year since Mark Carney became Prime Minister of Canada. That was 1 year ago tomorrow, March 14th, 2025. Mr. Carney had just won the leadership of the Liberal Party, replacing Justin Trudeau, and therefore he became the Prime Minister of the country. He didn't even have a seat in the House of Commons at the time. That came later, when the Liberals won the election, and he won a seat in the riding of Nepean in the Ottawa area. So here we are, 1 year of Prime Minister Mark Carney. And all the indications are he will soon have a majority government, assembled mostly through floor crossings. But whatever may be the case, what's also clear is that if an election was held today, it would still be Prime Minister Carney, and Prime Minister Carney would lead a massive majority government, probably in excess of 200 seats, because the country has carny mania. Carney Mania. Tell me about it. Philip J. Fournier, the polling expert who runs the website 338canada.com, says Carney has the Liberals at almost 70% support in Atlantic Canada. Think about that, 70% support, ahead by 23 points in Quebec, up by 18 points in Ontario, and ahead by 13 points in BC. And they're only, and I say only, behind by 10 points in Manitoba and Saskatchewan, and 18 points behind in Alberta, the only parts of the country where the Conservatives are still in the lead. But still, Mark Carney, because of Carney Mania, has Liberal support at 37% in Alberta, of all places. His approval ratings are through the roof. Twice as many Canadians approve of the job he's doing as PM compared to those who disapprove. And even in Alberta, more than half of Albertans polled approve of the job he's doing. So it's very clear that 1 year into the job, people still like the guy. They think he's doing a pretty good job. And those that voted for his party before would happily vote for his party again. And more Canadians that didn't vote for his party before would gladly vote for his party now. What's going on? How do you explain it? A year later, why does the country have Carney Mania? 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. In Nova Scotia, big week in the news, with the Premier, Tim Houston, reversing course on some very controversial cuts that were supposed to be part of his government's budget. Quite a turnaround from what he was saying a week ago, when he was saying things like, we need to stay the course. I know it's tough. We're not targeting specific sectors or groups. Now he's saying, we moved too fast. We didn't take enough time to think about things. We got it wrong. And he apologized. He said he was sorry. And that's a pretty rare thing to hear from a politician. I'm sorry. I was wrong. I'm sorry. But he said he's sorry. Now, sorry doesn't eliminate a $1.2 billion budget deficit or a looming $30 billion provincial debt that's headed for $35 billion by the government's own admission. There are still cuts in that budget. And there are people who are still not happy about those cuts. And there could still be more protests and more stories in the news about how someone is getting shafted by budget cuts in Nova Scotia. But what do you think about the last week or so in Nova Scotia politics, Nova Scotia listeners? Was the Premier right to roll back some of those budget cuts? Should he roll back more of those planned budget cuts? Or should he have stuck to his guns? Given the sorry state of Nova Scotia's finances. 1-833-668-2577. In Alberta, hey, what do you think about this? We've talked about this before. I wouldn't mind talking about this again. Government money, public money, taxpayers' money, your money going to private schools. Should taxpayer money go to private schools? In this case, about $90 million worth, according to a report in the Calgary Herald today. The Alberta government will spend $90 million over the next 3 years on private schools through a matching grant program. So I guess if the private school spends $1 million, it could get a matching $1 million from the Alberta government. The Minister of Education told Post Media the money will prioritize schools that serve students with specialized needs. The aim, according to the government, is to create 6,000 spaces in private schools with an emphasis on students with specialized needs. I'd love to know what you think about this. It is always controversial. Should taxpayers' money go to private schools? There are a lot of people who think, no, absolutely not. And if parents want to send their children to a private school, they should have to pay for it themselves, 100%. They shouldn't get any help from the government. I have also heard from others who think there should be more choice in education, and parents should get some kind of break, voucher, credit on education taxes if they want to send their child to a private school and not the local public school. One of the common criticisms in this debate that's come up whenever we've talked about this issue, public money for private schools, is the fact that many private schools don't accept students with special needs. They're very selective. At least that's what callers have told me in the past. And for that reason, they shouldn't get any government money. But this announcement is a twist on that. It's $90 million, but to get the money, investments need to be made in accommodating students with specialized needs. So if you're opposed to taxpayer money going to private schools, is that a game changer for you? Have your say on that. That's always a lively debate when that's in the news. Just some conversation starters. You can join the conversation. You can start one of your own because it's the Friday Free-for-All Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
It's the Friday Free-for-All today. Eric is in Halifax. Thanks for calling, Eric. You're on the line.
Hey, how you doing today, Rob?
Yeah, very good, Eric. Thank you. What do you want to talk about?
Well, I'd like to talk about why people are crossing the floor to go to the Liberals.
Right.
And the reason why, nobody wants to be around a loser. And the other two parties are, one of them's not bad, but the other one, the NDP, are losers. So that's why everybody's crossing the floor. The man at the helm, a year ago he got sworn in. I think he's doing a hell of a job for what he had to work with, for what he had to pick up with. And I managed to get on this morning regarding my two questions regarding the cap. Well, the cap is going to come off at the end of 2027 for the rent, and the housing supplement, he never touched base on it. I don't know if you got a chance to listen to it or not, but it was pretty good. I mean, politicians tell you what you want to hear. That's all that's what they're good at. You know, they would never tell the truth, but it takes a hell of a man or a woman to admit that they're wrong. And I don't know how you feel about all this conversation.
Well, I would like to just circle back to where you began, the 1-year anniversary of Mark Carney, since I threw that out as a topic. So, 1 year ago compared to today, how is your life any better? Is it better? Are you better off?
My life was pretty good because I'm 77. I've been on my, I've done everything that I could think of. I got everything that I would want because I'm personally are doing fairly well. I'm sure I'd like to have, what the Joneses and the Smiths have, but I'm happy with my life.
All right. Okay. So you think he's doing a good job. Why do you think he's doing a good job?
Well, he's trying to better he's trying to pick up for what the mess that was made for 10 years. And, he didn't have much to work with, but you got to give the benefit of the doubt. I mean, the man's only been in there a year. I think another year will tell the tale. If he goofs up, then we'll let him know it. But if he keeps going the way he's going, I think he'll be all right. I have a cousin down in Cape Breton that loves Carney. So they just think the world of him.
He's got Carney mania. All right. He's got Carney mania. Doesn't sound like you have Carney mania, but maybe your cousin does. All right, Eric. Thank you. You've got us off and running here. Let's go to Barry is in Halifax. Hello, Barry.
Hello.
Hi, Barry.
I'm a little concerned about Carney's spending. I think we're going to be...
His spending.
So, our Prime Minister's spending. I think we're going to be so far in debt eventually that we'll never find our way back. And... But one thing that he could spend on is the production of these DH-515s in Calgary. It's supposed to be the best water bombers in the world because we have, if we have another summer like we did the last 2 summers, we're going to be, burning up the country pretty well.
Right. Okay.
One other thing about Tim Houston.
Now let me just on the spending, if you could, sir, like just on the spending. Let's take this announcement in Yellowknife yesterday. It'd be like a big announcement, $35 billion. Keeping in mind the budget deficit is whatever it's going to be, $75 or $80 billion. But if you get, say, greatly improved military bases in Yellowknife and in Nunavut and in Iqaluit and in Goose Bay and in Labrador And if you get something like the Mackenzie Valley Highway project, that's going to be an all-weather road, and an all-weather road in a new port in Nunavut, and an expanded hydroelectric project in the north. Like, you have something to show for it. It's not spending money for the sake of spending money. Does that change your opinion at all?
I guess a bit, but a lot of that development in the north is a result of global warming.
Okay.
Because we have access to places now we haven't had before.
Well, I'm not even sure how accurate that is, but nevertheless, it's just the idea that there will be some sort of asset at the end of it. A new hydroelectric station, or a port, or a couple of, badly needed roads where they, would only have snow roads or whatever, ice roads or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah, right. No, I agree with that.
Okay, you do. But you are concerned about the ever-growing size of the debt and deficit. I can appreciate that, sir. Thank you for your call. And we love some more calls. 1-833-668-2577. Carney mania? Do you suffer from Carney mania? Premier Houston in Nova Scotia, quite an about-face in a week for him. Public money for private schools in Alberta. How do you feel about taxpayer money going to private schools, generally speaking? Or anything else that might be on your mind? That's how we roll on a Friday. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Friday free-for-all Talkback. Rob in Waterloo is up next on Talkback. Hi, Rob.
Hey, how are you?
Yeah, very good, Rob. Thank you. How are you?
Not too bad. Just driving home from work here. Just wanted to call in and say, man, it just grinds my gears hearing these elderly carny lovers calling in and say how he's doing such a great job and, he's the right guy for the job and, he's got to make up for 10 years of liberal mess up. It's like Carney was part of the liberal government for the past 10 years. He was part of the decision making. He was behind the scenes. So any messes that he's trying to clean up, he helped cause in the first place. Now,
all right. So you don't have Carney mania. You're not struck with Carney mania.
Oh my gosh, no! I think maybe he could be a good leader in some other place, but not here.
Okay, what is he
I'm
not doing right?
Years old.
Sure.
I'm 33 years old. What has he done for me? Nothing. Nothing that can really pop to mind saying, you know what, that change is benefiting me.
What would you want him to do? What could make your life better?
Get rid of some of the crime that's going on here. Put a lot of the criminals in jail instead of putting them back out on bail right away. Make our streets safer. Make our communities safer.
All right.
But there's no talk about that. Instead, it's let's go overseas and let's talk to the Indian Prime Minister about getting more immigrants in here, which is all fine and dandy, sure, as long as they're good people. But what's been happening is that a lot of the bad apples from these countries have been coming in. Well, we don't want bad apples.
Well, of course not. Yeah, I don't think that trip to India was about real immigration. That wasn't the focus of that trip. That was about commercial ties.
Well, exactly. But there was more to it than just the commercial ties.
I'm not too sure about that. But there are concerns. Does Canada even want closer ties with a government in India that has been accused of targeting, for example, Sikhs in Canada and killing
exactly.
them? Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We don't want it. We don't need any of that. And when it comes to commercial ties and trades with India, the stuff that's coming out of India is no better than the cheap stuff that's coming out of China. So why would we want that?
Well, it's not so much what we want from India, but more what we can provide to India.
Right. Well, we can talk about what we can provide, but we still can't get oil out of the ground here. We still can't get enough LNG out of the ground here, right? We just ordered We just ordered a whole tanker of LNG from Australia there a month ago.
Yeah, that went to New Brunswick. Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know. It's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, I'm still baffled by that one, sir. But I appreciate your call. You are not inflicted with Carney mania whatsoever. You think he was part of the government that made a mess of things over the last 10 years, and that in the last year not much has improved in your life. That's why we wanted to bring this up today. Tomorrow, the 1-year anniversary of Mark Carney becoming the 24th Prime Minister of this country. Are you inflicted, overcome with Carney mania? We'll pick it up after the news on that or any other topic that you want to raise today, because it's Friday. It's a Friday free for all talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Yes, it is Friday free for all talkback. Great to hear from you today at 1-833-668-2577. I believe Karen is up next in Calgary today. Hello, Karen.
Hey, Rob. How you doing?
Hanging in there, Karen. How about you?
I'm fantastic.
Good. You have Carney mania?
Absolutely not. And I challenge the whole entire Canada. If we really think that he is the man, let's have a vote. After all these floor crossers, let's have a vote for the whole country to see who supports this man. Nobody. The media supports this man. Therefore, the Canadians are brainwashed into supporting this man. He is, I can't even put into words. I'd probably be kicked off the radio.
Okay, well, let's try not to have that happen. 70%.
No, we won't.
This is liberal support. 70% support in Atlantic Canada. Ahead by 23 points in Quebec, ahead by 18 points in Ontario, where they have a conservative government, a PC government, up 13 points in British Columbia. And I mean, they're even narrowing the gap in places like the prairies in Alberta. Half of the people in Alberta say, they ask them, do you approve of the job Mark Carney's doing? 53% say they approve. In your province, these are not the kind of numbers that you want to see. If you want an election, you think you're going to get rid of the Liberals. It's not happening. They just win bigger than they won the last time.
I'd rather have Canadians tell me what they want rather than some Leger poll or some guy who gets paid by the government. I mean, the amount of money that's going out. Do you know who his wife's sister is now with the guy they appointed to the pension board, Mark Evans or something? Like, can he not find any conservatives or any other voices besides brainwashing to appoint people to positions? All this is nothing but money laundering, our money, and I frankly am sick of it. And I'll tell you why the people in Alberta are voting for Liberals, because they moved here for a better deal, and they're bringing their politics with them. But they'll find out. They'll find out when they start looking around and going, oh, my God, it's wicked living here. It's the best province in the world to live here. And frankly, Canada's doing nothing but to sabotage our votes here with the upcoming separation. And I frankly won't stand for it.
All right. Have you become a separatist now, Karen? Have you become a separatist?
Absolutely. If Alberta doesn't vote, I'm leaving Canada. Because we're down to one employee. We have our own business.
I would advise you to get your passport, because the fees are going up, Karen. Because it doesn't look like that the independence. I'm just saying, it doesn't look like the independence vote is going to go anywhere. You have a lot of minds that you would need to change. Every poll that comes out, it's poll after poll after poll after poll after poll. I know you don't believe the polls. Sure. Everybody's bought and paid for. The media's bought and paid for. The polling companies are bought and paid for. Everybody's bought and paid for. Got you, Karen. All right. Thank you. Mike in Calgary. Hello, Mike.
Good afternoon. And I am calling about public funding for
private
Alberta,
schools.
But I do want to comment on the Carney mania. Born and raised in Alberta, old enough to have voted for Pierre Elliott Trudeau in my first vote, and I've been a staunch conservative ever since. But you know what? Conservative Polyev doesn't change his tune. I'll be voting for Carney in the next election. So next item.
Okay, yeah. Moving right along then, if you want to talk, should taxpayer money go to private schools? That's what I've been asking.
I have no problem with that. I happen to be fortunate enough to be a multi-property owner, so I pay taxes towards education on many things. But I have another question, is that I've always thought public education should not be about religion. We already have a split system here with funding going to Catholic schools and public universities, all the stuff. If we got to fund some of the elite who are different when it comes to private schools and stuff, I'm okay with that. But I'd like to see one public system, not Catholic. School is about education, not religion, especially with how Canada has changed over the last, 30 or 40 years. So that's my thought. I'm okay with supporting other sides.
Okay, thank you. But no Catholic schools. Understood. Thank you for your call. I think we have time for one more, where there are 3 or 4 lines available there as well. Jason is in Kitchener today. Hello, Jason.
Good afternoon, Rob. I hope you're doing well.
Been doing well. Jason, what's on your mind today?
Carney is disastrous for this country. I believe with all the callers that said the baby boomers are giving him a pass because they're not looking for work. They're not trying to buy a house. So, and they listen to CBC or whomever, that all they do is they give him a pass. The truth is, and then you said a comment that was very distressing, is that, yeah, we have a $70 billion deficit, but is this a good investment? That is a very childish, and that's half the country looks at it like that. It's that, no, we can't afford it. If for the last 11 years we haven't balanced the budget, and now we've got $70 billion. Everybody doesn't even know what that is. That's $70,000 million. So government shouldn't be able to run a deficit for 10 years. What they're doing is they're buying people's votes with money from people that haven't been born yet. That should not be. If we can't afford it, like the number one line items at governments across Canada are the interest on the debt. And that's from people buying our votes 10, 20 years ago. So that's all childish. All the boomers that are saying everything's fine, I don't notice any problem, they should listen to the people like that young man from Kitchener, 33 years old. I'm 55. It's brutal out there. I've got kids that are 19s and 20s. Like, there's no future in this country. This guy, if he keeps doing these budgets and you people keep saying everything's fine, and you say the polls say 53%, half of the people in this country have an IQ below 100. That's how it works. That's no proof that it's great. I'm just saying, there's no future for Canada if this continues on.
Okay, I will suggest to you that it's not just a geographic thing that he's, more popular in Eastern Canada than he is in Western Canada. The Conservatives once had a very wide lead in the polls with younger Canadians. That has evaporated now. They are in greater numbers now supporting the Liberals than the Conservatives. The Liberals are now leading with men. The Liberals are leading with women, regardless of age. He's popular. A year tomorrow, he was sworn in as Prime Minister. I know you don't think he's doing a heck of a job, but gosh, if there was an election today, you would be another disappointed person, I think. Let's keep those calls coming. Friday Free for All Talkback. Join the conversation. Start one of your own. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Michael up next in Nova Scotia on the Friday Free for All Talkback. Hello, Michael.
Hello. Thanks for taking my call.
You're welcome.
I don't have Carney Mania. In fact, I didn't even vote for him in the last election. But I think he's doing a lot of the right things. I like in enhancing our defense and giving some priority to the North. I think that's what the future is. And, and reaching out to Alberta. Well, after 10 years of terrible Liberal Trudeau leadership, I did not vote for Carney. Now I'm going to give him a chance. And I think I don't like the situation with the young people, can't buy houses and all kinds of problems there. There are homelessness and the huge deficit. That I do not like and do not agree with. But I think the proof of the pudding is going to be whether he gets a reasonable deal with the U.S. And I think he has been smart the way he's been dealing with Mr. Trump. And, that's probably the key. And expanding our trade. The more we trade with other people, the less with the Americans, it's better. I know it's still huge, but it's got to go in the other direction. And the same thing as buying all the military stuff in Canada. I think that's a great idea. Anyway, so the next election, we'll see who I vote for. But right now, I'd give the man a chance.
You'd give the man a chance. All right, fair enough, Michael. Thank you. Maury in Halifax. Maury?
Hello?
Yeah, hi, Maury. Am I saying your name right?
Marie.
Marie. Okay. Hi there.
Okay.
What's on your mind?
Appreciate Kearney. I am more pro-Canada at this point. With everything that started up with America, everything in the world, I'm more pro-Canada. I appreciate Kearney that he keeps his head down. He doesn't participate in the trash talk. He just works. He goes around. He makes deals. He focuses on what needs to be done. He's uniting Canada. He doesn't trash talk our country. Every country right now in the world has issues. You tell me right now in this conversation somewhere that's better off, that's perfect right now. There's nobody. Everybody has issues. As far as young people, we have like a 38-year-old and a 40-year-old children, and our son had no prospect of kind of working or jobs. He took the initiative through early COVID, and he went out to get a trade. Now he's a Red Seal electrician, bought a house, sometimes the Lord helps those who help themselves instead of bitching for the government to do it for them. Do some research. There's going to be openings. Truckers are aging. Do some research and help yourself. You'll be able to figure it out. But just don't put all your eggs in and bash the government and bash Kearney that he's the reason your ass isn't getting out of bed or out of the basement and getting a job or a trade. Come on. Enough's enough here. We got in December, you had Andrew Scheer of the Conservatives with a little mini delegation of Conservative MPs running around down in America. He said he doesn't know who he met with. They won't say who went. Then in February, then Jamal, Giovanni,
Is there something wrong with going to the United States?
With the American government, and now we have Pierre down there. Our government.
Right. If I could, ma'am, is it wrong for politicians to reach out to the United States?
Well, in this circumstance, when we have a circumstance like we've never had before with the United States, the United States has always been our ally. We've gotten along. Things have changed. You've got to admit that. And we're not it's almost like a hostile regime.
So should it be? Is it only liberals are allowed to go to the United States and try to build bridges and have conversations? Only liberals are allowed to do that. Well, that's what you're suggesting, that only liberals are allowed to do that. Are liberals cut from some more righteous cloth, ma'am? All right, you're not even listening to me. I've heard you. Thank you. We'll stop here. Be right back with more of your calls. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Kent is in Calgary. Thanks for calling, Kent. You're on Talkback.
These days I consider myself more of an independent, but I'm leaning a little more liberal than conservative. My thoughts were, as I talk to people in Calgary and people around me in my world, some of the people liking Mark Carney, it's partly because they're like more not liking Pierre Poilievre. And I think some of the conservative leadership is responsible for the, like, I don't know if it's as much as what Mark Carney has done. That's great. But I think there's a little more of Pierre Poilievre, like, isn't necessarily like the right leader. I see that in sort of my personal circles. I think some of the younger ones, like one of your callers suggested, like it's the things changing in Alberta. It's all the people moving here. That's absolutely not it. It's actually some of these callers' children who sort of watch how conservatives are just willing to say almost anything. You've had a few callers just, I don't want to go on the specifics, but there's been a few ridiculous things said that are like sort of like a belief and not necessarily what's happening. But it's almost like the conservatives are some are starting to like say anything to like try to win. And I think even people younger than me are looking at politics this way, going like, it's not necessarily what you're saying, and I don't trust that. Like, it's some of the rhetoric's just getting much. And like one example is just, I remember well enough that Stephen Harper, at the end of him being the prime minister, kicked a bunch of debt into the future to make it look like he had a balanced budget. And he got in a little like hot water over that. And in a way, we're still paying some of that debt off today. And conservatives just need to remember that too. Because like, yes, there's more debt from Liberals, but we're still paying some debt from Conservatives. And neither side is perfect. But my last words, I guess I want to say is I just think some of this problem, or I guess the Carney sensationalism that you're thinking, I think Pierre Poilievre is just turning a few more people off.
Yeah, sure. You don't have to, don't compare me to the almighty, compare me to the alternative. That's an old line in politics. It's not that you think Mark Carney is the almighty. He's better than the alternative. That's your thinking, right?
Yeah, they're not going to, you can't write a book about like, he stood up to Trump pretty good, and he's opened up some trade routes, and he's doing some good work. But nobody's writing a book. No one's going to write a book about his first year in politics, that it's an amazing thing. But like, yeah, compared to the alternative, it's sort of, it's comfortable.
Fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I think that's a common sentiment. Thank you, Kent, in Calgary. Time for one more, if we can make it quick. Matt is in Calgary. Squeeze Matt in here before the news. Hello, Matt.
Hey, Rob. How's it going? Good morning.
Very good, Matt. Thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I'm calling about in something different. I'm just calling about that the war there between Iran, the United States, and Israel there. I think it's such a mess, man.
Oh, it's a mess. Yes. What about it?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I'm 47, and for me, so the first thing that I try to do when I see something like this is get like accurate situational awareness, which is hard enough to come by, right? Because we're bombarded with so much information. But I think, ultimately what it's about is the Israelis there, they can't live with Iran having that uranium, right? It's at 60%. And they need troops on the ground. And I don't think, I think the rest of the world wants this war to be over as soon as possible.
For sure.
And so and I think the Israelis, they won't want it over until they get the uranium out there. So there's a difference of thinking here.
All right, that's interesting. Thank you, Matt. Got to run. I wish we had more time for you today, but we've got to stop there for hour number 1 of Talkback. Full hour just ahead. Friday free for all. Let's roll. This is News Radio.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now.
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to hour number 2 of Talkback. It's the Friday free-for-all. I'm Rob Snow, so we're wide open on topics today. You can pick a topic. We'll roll with it. Certainly a lot of passionate opinions in the first hour about the looming 1-year anniversary of Prime Minister Mark Carney. That's tomorrow. Tomorrow is the first anniversary of Canada's 24th Prime Minister, sworn in after winning the Liberal leadership. He would go on to guide the Liberals to victory in a spring election about 6 weeks later. And there is an article today in the news media that says if you look at the polls right now, the country is enthralled with Mark Carney. It is a case of Carney mania. How do you explain Carney mania 1 year in? 1-833-668-2577. But as we say, wide open today, whatever happens to be on your mind. Peter is out there in Calgary. Thanks for calling, Peter.
Well, thank you for taking my call. I've been
You're
sitting
welcome.
here listening to many. Yeah, I've been sitting here listening to many of your callers, and I, firmly disagree with most of them. I will not be voting for Carney, mostly because he's a liberal. I don't want liberal policies any longer. We've had enough of them here in Alberta that have not been considerate to Alberta. We're in this position because of Jagmeet Singh and his greed for his pension. Canadians would have had a say if Jagmeet Singh had done his thing and helped bring down the Liberal government at that time. Polls, Sir Winston Churchill said something once that was very fitting. He says, polls are for dogs. And
that's been attributed to a lot of
politicians.
politicians over the years. I'm not sure if that was a Winston Churchill quote, but a lot of people have said that over the years. Polls are for dogs.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, they have. Absolutely.
Okay.
But I would much prefer, one of your callers did say this, I'd much prefer a election where Carney wins it fair and square or loses it fair and square. And what really irritates me is politics coming down to a beauty contest or a popularity contest. I don't like Poilievre because he doesn't speak right. But nobody gets into the platform and what the Liberal Party stands for or the Conservative Party stands for. And that is of far more importance than the person that's actually leading the party, whichever party we're talking about. I want to go back to something and just pick your brain on it because you said something rather provocative. I would like to have a vote to see if he wins it fair and square. What do you mean by that? Do you think the last election was not fair and square? No, I don't. What
do you mean by that?
The Liberal Party is absolutely expert at campaigning. They're lousy at governing, but they eviscerated, and that was part of their plan, the NDP party. And Jagmeet Singh was complicit in that. The NDP party lost 40 votes or 40 seats? I don't know the number, but it was substantial, and all those seats went Liberal.
Yeah, I don't think it was. I think it was because they were greatly reduced in numbers. You will recall the consecutive elections; they lost seats election after election after election, following the Orange Wave. I think they were down to. I can't remember, they 25 or 26. I think they lost 17 or something like that. They were decimated on the West Coast. In some places in Atlantic Canada, there was one riding they didn't even run a candidate. And as a result, there was no vote split, allowing the Liberal MP to kind of walk away with it there. But don't you think Pierre Poilievre had a role to play in also decimating the New Democrats, standing up there every day and, saying he's only in it for his pension, he's only doing this for his pension, that kind of stuff?
Well, if it wasn't true, it shouldn't have been said, I guess.
Okay. I will say this. Mr. Singh has said he did that in the best interest of the country because the country would be better off making sure there was never a conservative government. And that's, he said, he suggests he did it for the country.
Well, I could believe him saying that, but I didn't hear it. But I'm sure he said it because
You heard it.
Right. Okay.
But I don't believe him. There's just no way that was something that he did.
You think he wanted to hit that 6-year mark so he would qualify for an MP's pension?
Absolutely.
That's your belief, and you're sticking to it. That was it. That was all. Okay. Fair enough. Thank you for your call. Just like that, off and running. It's hour number 2 of Talkback. We don't have to talk about politics today. Talk about whatever you want to talk about. We can go off in all sorts of different directions today. Unburden yourself. That's what we're here for. It's Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Right back to it. Rose is in Calgary. Hi, Rose.
Hi.
Hello, Rose. Yeah, good to hear from you, Rose. What's on your mind?
Thank you. I listen when I'm in the car and to your show quite a bit, actually. And like the pros and the cons, don't always agree or don't always disagree. However, today I was driving, I'm home now, and you said about this Carney mania. And for me personally, I don't speak for other people, it's not, I don't have Carney mania, but I have Polyev phobia. So, so,
right.
And let me explain, and your comment a few minutes ago about him standing up all the time about Jagmeet Singh, that always annoyed me because he's done nothing but work in the government. So he's going to get a pension. So I don't know why he would. Yeah. So I don't know why he would have that as an issue. And I think when his popularity was high, and also I'd like to clarify, I've never voted Liberal in my life, but I will be now because Alberta is, 9.2 billion deficit when the PCs have run this province for over 40 years. So healthcare is provincial, education is provincial, so the PCs. Now, that being said, I voted for Jason Kenney. I thought it wasn't fair that any premier was judged during COVID. And I think everyone was desperate to get rid of Trudeau. No one would argue. I don't think that wasn't needed. But that's how Poilievre's popularity rose. It was better than Trudeau. But when Carney came along, he can speak eloquently. The world stage seems to like him. So for me, I think he's a better representative for Canada. And like I say, in regards to the money he's spending, well, why is Alberta in that big deficit? And that's all been PC pretty much. So that's just my thoughts on it. And I think obviously I voted PC all those times, but now I will switch. But I think like Canada, like the States, people are getting too entrenched. Well, I'm a PC, I'm a Liberal, I'm a Democrat, I'm a Republican. But you have to at some point be realistic and say, is this the best fit for our country?
Okay, fair enough. Thank you for your call. Thank you for listening. Call back sometime, Rose. Terry is up next on Talkback. Hello, Terry.
Hello.
Hi, Terry.
What I want the world to know, I'm going to change the subject a little bit here. In fact, a lot.
All right.
It's a mess in Calgary here with snow and slush, and the residential areas are slippery, and pedestrian right-of-way has got to stop.
Okay, what do you mean, pedestrian right-of-way? What do you mean?
Well, we've had like 5 people hitting crosswalks in the last week.
Yes.
And the reason I'm calling right now is I just watched a guy cross the road in a controlled crosswalk, hit the light for the amber light to flash that he's coming. He didn't even look. Hit the light switch, kept right on walking, and between, I'd say 7 to 10 vehicles, me being the furthest one back, had to hit the brakes instantly. People do not
Right
make
on.
contact with the drivers, and there's going to be more people whacked in these crosswalks. And I'm not totally sure, but I'm sure there's other provinces that do not have pedestrian right away. They got to wait for traffic to pass.
So
I don't know if that's
what would be the remedy to that? Explain it to me. What would be the remedy to that?
I think the pedestrian has to stand there until traffic is passed, period. Once cars are gone by, cross the road.
Yes, sure thing. I mean, in the name of safety, personal safety, you would think you would do that. I'm just a little confused as to what is going on. Are you saying that this person just did not wait for, say, the walk sign to come up and just walked into the crosswalk?
They that fast. He had the right of way because he hit the switch, so the lights flash, letting drivers know there's somebody there. But when there's already a car basically there, and you step out in front of it, and the guy, you're close enough to the light, you don't actually even see it flash. But they just keep right on walking. They got their headphones in, their earbuds in, got their dog's trotting, and they just go without any hesitation at all.
Okay, so just so I'm clear, so this is not at an intersection, because we have these in Ottawa where it's not an intersection, but there are these parts of the street where you can press this button and these lights start flashing. They're almost like strobe lights, and you're supposed to stop and let the person cross the road. Is that the sort of system that you're talking about? That's it. Okay, correct. Just so I understand. Yes.
And I even believe, because I was in Ottawa several years ago, but I believe Ottawa, you don't have the right of way. I stepped out there and almost got smacked.
Yeah. I don't like those. I'm still getting used to those when I drive in Ottawa. Actually, it's not natural because it's not an intersection. There's no stoplight. There's no stop sign. It's just these lights start flashing, and you're supposed to stop. And it's you kind of have to get used to it, and I'm still getting used to it.
If you've got time to do it, great. But people here don't wait for traffic to stop. They just walk.
I see. All right. That's very interesting. Thank you for bringing that up and raising that. I've been following that in the news, the number of people who have been pedestrians who've been hit by cars in your city. Quite alarming. Maybe you've keyed in on something there. See, that's how we go. Friday Free For All Talkback. Very interesting. Thank you. Very informative, Terry. Be right back. Have your say. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Yes, it is. So we're wide open because it's a Friday Free For All. We can go anywhere you want to go today. Rob is up next. Thanks for calling, Rob.
Hi there. Calling from Calgary. I don't get to listen to you every day. I do try to listen a lot. And there's a situation that's come up in Calgary where our mayor, Jeremy Farkas, has said that NMAX is well positioned to take over water services in Calgary. And this has got me tremendously concerned because in the past, NMAX has just turned into a for-profit corporation. We had Gary Holden as the CEO years ago that Forbes magazine named one of the worst CEOs in the world, and making absolutely millions of dollars of ratepayers' money per year, hosting lavish parties with Blue Rodeo and so on at his house and writing them all off. And we're going to end up having water become a for-profit thing, and our water bills are just going to go right through the roof if this happens.
Right. So for people in our other markets here in Southern Ontario and in Atlantic Canada, so NMAX is your electricity provider that's owned by the city of Calgary, right? It's your electricity utility.
Yeah, I don't know that it's actually even owned by the city anymore since privatization here, but it what rose from the former City of Calgary electric system, yes.
Okay. And your concern is what? You think that water could become, well, like electricity, like a deregulated kind of thing?
Absolutely.
Driven by profit instead of, say, providing a public service at cost. Fair enough.
That's right. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
I think it's a steep, slippery slope that's going to just jack people's bills up. We're already in an affordability crisis all across the country, and our electricity rates have been through the roof ever since it got privatized here, and now we're going to get the same thing happen to water is what it looks like to me.
All right. Thank you for raising that. I'm going to do a little investigation into that myself. Thank you. Who's up next there, Curtis? Sorry, I've lost track. Curtis? Michael. Okay, Michael. Thank you, Michael, for calling.
Hi.
Hi, Michael.
Hello.
Hi, Michael. Go ahead. Yeah, you're on the air.
Yeah, just a couple of quick things. One of your last callers talked about separate schools or Catholic schools.
Catholic schools, yes.
Him that we take separate church and states and government. I don't think schools should, indoctrinate their students. So I agreed with him that we should have one public school. And I don't mind them supporting private schools to a little degree. The only other thing I wanted to mention is I think Carney is so popular due to the fact that Trudeau was so bad. Such a refreshing change to have somebody with some brains. I found Trudeau to be exceptionally dull. And having never lived in the real world, he really didn't have a clue about much. So
I see.
Carney is a refreshing change. Do you think?
Well, I think it's very much the Carney party as opposed to the Liberal Party under this particular prime minister. He is much more. I think he's much more popular than the party that he leads, because the party that he leads is very much the same cast of characters that were there during the Trudeau years.
Yeah, Trudeau destroyed it and helped destroy the country to some degree due to his dullness. I don't think he was very smart. But
well, dullness. I think it went past, but well beyond dullness. You're hard pressed to find one major file during the Trudeau years that he actually did a good job on as the prime minister of the country. I think he will easily go down in history as one of the worst prime ministers ever. And the election of 2025 was certainly a change election. Everybody wanted to see the backside of Mr. Trudeau. It just seemed that for a lot of people, they were open to Mark Carney being the agent of change more than Pierre Poilievre in the end.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
It's the Friday free-for-all Talkback. We're in the home stretch here now. Open line, open topic on Fridays. Puma up next, also in Calgary today. A very popular destination today. Hello, Puma.
Hello, sir. How are you?
Yeah, very good. What's on your mind?
A few things.
All right.
First, let's start off with the city of Calgary here.
Yes.
With today's day and age and technology, with AI coming in and everything getting done a lot quicker, the world is a lot smaller. Why is the city of Calgary administration and development permits going on at turtle pace? Like slower than before, takes too long. People are working from home. The buck gets passed on. You call one department, you got to call 8 different phone numbers to get to the right person. Why has the city not implemented, better systems? If I was in charge of the city, send me a development permit with the advertising period taken into account, no more than 45 days, we will accept or reject any development permit. These guys
if I could, Puma, if I could just jump in here, it sounds like you have some personal involvement here. Yes? You're in this industry?
No, I'm a realtor, and I deal with a lot of people.
You're a realtor. All right, yeah, fair enough. So give me an example. I mean, what's you say? You got to come. So if you think it should be done in 45 days, how long is it taking?
Over a year.
Over a year. Okay.
Yeah, that's like before it used to be about a 4 to 6 month process. Now it's over a year. And with, like I said, with today's technology, this thing should never take more than 45 days. And 45 days.
And for what kind of development is this? What kind of development are you talking about?
Even for duplexes, fourplexes, inside like inner city and whatnot, right? Like just general, like nothing super complicated. Even if something super complicated, should be no more than 120 days. Like that's 4 months.
Right, but it's not a 30-story condo tower or a new subdivision. You're talking about a fourplex, like an infill
tower
something.
Or anything like that.
Right.
No, definitely not.
All right.
Those I can understand that that's a year process in that thing over there. But small development permits, like minor stuff, should be in and out within 45 days. You know, it's
fair enough.
Anyway.
All right, so that's one.
That's one.
What else?
One of my beefs with the city that, you know, I have clients that, like, if they are waiting this long for development permits and they got to build it and whatnot, and then, you know, carrying costs and all that add up, and part of the blame goes on the city on this one here.
And in the end, who pays for all of that? And who pays for all of that? All of that red tape, all your applications, you know, various experts, engineering this, environmental that. Who's paying that? The end person who's buying a housing unit is paying that. The landowner is passing along those costs, right?
Exactly. At the end, the consumers pay a higher price because of what it is.
Bang on.
And so
it's ridiculous.
That was one of my concerns, and I hope somebody at the city administration or the mayor himself is listening. I'm also the president of Martindale Community Association, so I'm quite involved in a lot of stuff. I see a lot of stuff. I see a lot of complaints come my way, but we all we can do is just call 311 or tell our counselor, and that's the extent of the power that we have. So you bring about concerns into the community or into the city, and a lot of times it does fall on deaf ears. So if somebody's listening, open your ears. And, get with the program, start speeding this stuff up, give accountability to the citizens who are actually paying their property taxes.
All right, Joe. I've got to run, Puma. I've got some other calls I want to get to. That seems to be a big gripe of yours. Understandable. It's not just a Calgary thing, that. Joe's in Nova Scotia. Thanks for calling, Joe.
Hey, thanks for having me, Rob.
You're
just
welcome.
wondering if I could do a little Friday rant, if you don't mind.
You go right ahead.
All right. So listen, I've got to call out some people. John Candy, Sean Madrumder, Joni Mitchell, Michael J. Fox, Haley Wickenheiser, Rex Murphy, and I'm going to put an asterisk beside this name, Pinball Clements, and all the rest of the great Canadians. I'm all calling you out because it's all your fault that I love my country. And I think we should unite instead of divide. So,
all right.
Have a good Friday, everybody out there. Take care.
All right, Joe. Thank you. That's a nice call on a Friday. Thanks for that, Joe. A little change of pace. Lethbridge. Ron is in Lethbridge. Hi, Ron.
Hey, Rob. How are you doing?
Yeah, good, Ron. Thanks. What's on your mind?
You're doing a great job.
I'm trying.
Mr. Carney. I didn't vote for him and never will. I just feel, he's a bit of an elitist. He's a globalist. He's not a populist like Pierre. And, I have to be blunt. If Trump wasn't president, Carney wouldn't be a PM right now. Carney owes Donald Trump for his prime ministership. That's the only reason. And why is that? Because the Liberals, I feel, they always sell fear when it comes to election. So in 2025, we had the fear of Trump, the elbows up, Trump derangement syndrome. 2020, we had the COVID pandemic. You vote for us, we're going to save you from dying. Trucker convoy, all that fear. And in 2015, when Trudeau came in, it was all about global warming, climate change. The world will end if we don't do something. Give us your money, and the Liberals will save you. Fear always sells. And it seems to be that people get sucked up in that.
Okay. Let me just run a few things by you, okay?
Okay.
So Mr. Carney, in the last year, has said, we're going to do some government downsizing. right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a conservative thing, government downsizing. The government has grown a lot in the last 10 years. He has lowered taxes. He lowered income taxes by 1 percentage point, got rid of the carbon tax. So that's a conservative thing. He stole that from the conservatives, getting rid of the carbon tax.
Absolutely.
I know the industrial carbon tax is going to go up. Conversation for another day.
Right.
Increased military spending. For example, in the Arctic yesterday, big announcement, $35 billion.
Yep.
Seems more open to more natural resources developments, whether that's mines or oil and gas. Signed an MOU with Alberta. These are all things that conservatives should like.
He's all talk, no walk. All talk, no walk.
No walk.
He's saying, look over here. Look at all this money I'm spending on you. And he doesn't.
All
we're
right.
spending $1 billion a week just on the interest on the debt. Not even touching the $1.4 trillion in debt that we are. Like, it's unbelievable.
Gotcha,
It's just,
okay,
all
Ron.
smoke and mirrors.
Thank you. All smoke and mirrors. Gotcha. Thank you. Friday Free for All Talkback. I'm Rob Snow. Have your say on whatever it happens to be that's bugging you, driving you a bit crazy and around the bend. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
With Gary in Kitchener on the line. Hi, Gary. What's on your mind today?
Yeah, well, we're talking about salesmen and we're talking about Trump's friend. I do not understand how all of Canadians almost can get conned in again by another con man. That this guy here, Kearney, set up Donald Trump's son's accounts over in the United States. All his savings, and he set it up for Donald Trump's son. He's a friend and a pal of Trump. So he's acting.
I don't know anything about that.
Elbows up and all that kind of stuff, only to get elected. And look, since
There was something about. I know there was something about a real estate deal involving the Kushners, but I don't know anything more about it than that.
He's got Brookfield Investments. He pulled the office out of Canada for Brookfield. He moved it to the United States. And right today, he's got over 600 shares in Brookfield. And he pays absolutely no income tax in Canada. I don't understand that. And
Well,
yes, he did set up Trump's kids' thing.
Well, I suspect if he's a resident of Canada, and he's the prime minister, he must be paying income taxes here.
Well, he might be this year, but he hasn't been up until now. Okay, and he's known Trump. When he was over in England, when he was over there, Trump and those guys were over at the palace visiting. Google it; you can find this out. And he is absolutely doing nothing but traveling. He's he's having a good time on our dime, and all the older people, the younger people, I cannot believe that this guy is selling them down the road and conning them in again. A liberal con job, And
a real con job. All right, Gary, I've got to move along. Gary. We've got other calls to get to. You've made your opinions well known, sir. Thank you. Brian is in Calgary. Hello, Brian.
Hi, how's it going?
Very good, Brian. Thank you. What's on your mind?
I just want to make a comment about a previous caller, what he brought up about pedestrians and crosswalks. I think he's 100% correct, and he has a great idea. I've seen numerous times where I'm about ready to, travel through a crosswalk, and not once did they lift their head up to look or turn their heads. And just last week, a week or two ago, I was driving the truck going to work, and I hit an icy patch, and I slid within 5 to 10 feet of coming across a pedestrian, and not once did she turn her head or even look up, and she had a hoodie on. And I've asked young people, why do they do that? Why do they don't look? I'm not saying it's very sad that it's happening. I'm going to say that. But I asked them, why don't you people look? They're like, oh, I don't care. If they hit me, I get paid. I'm like, well, don't you want to know if your legs are going to get broken?
Right.
So anyways, that's just my 2 cents.
Well, if I could, though, Brian, just before you run there, I mean, where is this happening? Again, with the previous caller, he was explaining, well, it's happening at these places where they have these, lights and crosswalk, but they're not, traditional intersections. Is that your experience as well?
I've seen some at controlled intersections. The walk sign goes down and they still jump out in the road. And I've seen it at like crosswalks going to an intersection where there's no lights at all. They just jump out in the road. And I'm not putting all the blame on them. It's very sad what's happening, but they need to be paying attention. Like what happened to when we taught them when they were kids to look both ways? Do they not think that way anymore?
Sure. I guess not. Some of them anyway. All right. Thank you, Brian. Good to hear from you. Why don't we stop here and we'll come back. If there are a few more calls, we'll take a few more calls. If not, I'll wrap things up myself. 1-833-668-2577. It's the Friday Free-For-All Talkback. I'm Rob Snow, here with Curtis Giroux, and this is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Joe in Nova Scotia up next on the Friday Free-For-All Talkback. Hi there, Joe.
Hey, Rob, it's Joe in Kitchener.
Joe in Kitchener. Sorry, Joe.
Yeah, no worries.
With you.
Hey,
yeah.
No, I just want to weigh in on the Iran war. Listen, I've heard so much banter about this through the coming weeks on your show and other shows. And the bottom line is there's so many layers to this. It's unbelievable. And every layer is a conspiracy theory amongst itself. Like, for instance, the Epstein files. Drawing attention away from the Epstein files. Who cares? Who frickin' cares? This should have been done 10, 20, 30 years ago. This should have been done a long time ago. We should have bombed Iran because they've been operating with impunity. They've been terrorizing people, murdering people by the scores, and using proxies and terrorizing the world. So this should have happened a long time ago. And how we got here, who the hell cares? We should have done this a long time ago. Now we have significantly retarded the ability of the Iranians to continue unchecked. So at the end of the day, if that doesn't become a net positive, then what the hell? What are we looking at? That's my little rant for today, Rob.
Okay, it's a good rant. Are you worried, though, Joe, if I could, Joe, because you're a thoughtful guy. I know you're passionate in your opinions, but what if it is another Iraq and they're there for 10 years? Or what if it's Afghanistan, they're there for 20 years?
Well, you've sown the seeds of discord amongst like the own population of the Iranians themselves. So that's right. It's a slightly different animal than it was Iraq. Can you agree on that? It's a different animal.
Okay, I'll take your word for it. Okay, you think that there is a likelihood, we heard this from some Iranian Canadians this week, that there is a likelihood that they will rise up, that they will see their regime as being weakened and potentially overthrow it themselves and chart a new course. We'll see what happens, Joe.
Ideally,
yeah, thank you. Ideally, okay, ideally. Oh, we lost him. Sorry. Linda, I think, is going to have the last word this week on the Friday Free-For-All. Hi, Linda.
Hi. Yeah, the only thing I'm going to talk about is those crosswalks with the lights.
Yeah.
And,
what about them?
Pardon?
What about them?
I use them in Medicine Hat, and I've not seen an accident. But then again, all the pedestrians I watch that use them do take the courtesy to wait if the traffic is coming, and they make sure they look, and we even put our hand out to acknowledge to the driver that we're walking across.
That's a good idea.
So, yeah, and I've not seen an accident there, but we know because the traffic coming through there is 50 kilometers an hour, so they're not just going to stop on a blink.
For sure.
So, yeah, that's
I just find it, just as a motorist, where I see them when I drive through Ottawa, I find it's just I called it unnatural. It's just, I guess it's just something else new that you have to get used to as a motorist. I mean, these days you have so many distractions with if you're driving, you have to have your head on a swivel sometimes. I mean, you've got traffic that is as busy as ever. You have segregated bike lanes. You have people on motor scooters. You have people on these blasted e-scooters. Pedestrians walking out into crosswalks that are not even at controlled intersections. And, you're trying to navigate everything else that comes along with traffic in the city, whether that's, other bad drivers and public transit. I mean, it can be a zoo sometimes, just trying to get around. But thank you, Linda, for your call today. We got to run. And thank you, everybody, for your calls all week. It was a heavy-duty week in news, and the day is far from over. We'll bring you right up to date with the latest breaking news, and we will be back on Monday with more Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow, and this is News Radio.